It was a great experience. First time for me to play with the orchestra, the first time also with this wonderful conductor. The combination was fantastic, and it was the first time the orchestra played the piece as well. It's a very tough piece for everybody, but they played beautifully and everybody was just making music, exchanging all the time. So a great pleasure.
Why is it tough to play?
It's tough because, firstly, technically for everybody, so much is happening. It's very virtuoso, not just for the violin, but for all the instruments. Rhythmically, it's very complex. And then it changes between so many different ideas and themes. The styles are so different. You have this big, lavish Hollywood sound, but then you also have a kind of a fin de siècle Vienna. It's all sorts of things changing rapidly. It's brilliantly written, brilliantly orchestrated, but you have to really be on your toes. For me, it's like a symphony, actually. Of course, it's called a violin concerto, but actually the violin is very much part of the orchestra. It's part of the texture. So it's like chamber music on a big, grand scale.
Is that a kind of music you like?
I love great music, and that can be Hollywood music, it can be Baroque music, it can be Bach, it can be Bartók. It can be music that touches me. Korngold's music, I think, is wonderfully lyrical, evocative. It brings feelings and emotions of that time. You think of the big Hollywood movies of the 1930s and 40s when you hear his music. And yet, he came from a very different world. He came from Vienna. As an 11-year-old boy, he was very, very successful already as a Wunderkind. Gustav Mahler and Richard Strauss, they thought he would have a huge career. But circumstances were different. He escaped from the Nazis, he went to America, and there he did what he had to do to survive, to help to get his family out, and he was successful in the film industry. So he comes from two sides, and I find that also very interesting in his biography.
The violin is lying next to you?
Yes.
What kind of violin is this?
It's a really wonderful, wonderful instrument. It was made in 1742 by the maker Guarneri del Gesù. Guarneri del Gesù is probably even better than Stradivari, for me in any case. Some people prefer Stradivari, some people prefer del Gesù. I am a Guarneri man. It's the most incredible instrument. It belonged to a violinist called Lipinski, Karol Lipinski. He was one of the great virtuosos of the 19th century. He played with Paganini, but also with Chopin, with Liszt, with Schumann. So it's had a great history, and it's lent to me. I'm allowed to play it. It doesn't belong to me, but it's really wonderful. I'm very lucky to have it.
Yeah, so you have to pay attention.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It goes to a violin doctor regularly for checkups to make sure everything is okay, and it's a very faithful partner. I try not to make comparisons because every orchestra is different, like every composer is different. But I have to say, this has been really one of the most enjoyable collaborations on this piece that I've had. I've played this piece with many orchestras and many conductors, and every time I love to do it. But today was very special to have such a young conductor. You know, he's 25 years old at the beginning of his career, and yet he has something very special. He has a magic. And I think that connected with us, with the orchestra. From the first rehearsal, walking out with these colleagues here, it just felt natural. And that, for me, is the greatest thing you can hope for to be a musician, is to be natural and make music together.